Johnny Jones. I'm here at home. And have you ever picked up a radio at, say, an auction, maybe on eBay, perhaps at a flea market, and you take it home and it works? You turn it on, it works, but it just doesn't work very well. Well, today I want to show you guys a great way of fixing that, and 9 times out of 10, this is actually going to fix your issues. This is a Cobra 85 that I got in a lot. Now, oftentimes, if you find radios that are untested, they're going to work just like this one, but they're not going to work very well. Now, the issue with this Cobra 85 is that when I talk, my audio starts getting real light, and then it comes back up again. I'll show you. Now, I got it hooked up to my dosimeter, ran into my dummy load. And I will show you here. Watch the modulation. And we're talking and we're swinging and there's nothing left. Let's try it again. And we're talking and we're swinging and there's nothing left. Right. So, very oftentimes, if you got past all that insanity, these will have bad caps in them. And all you need to do is a simple capacitor change. I have fixed quite a few issues with just changing the caps out. So if I can do it, you can certainly do it. So let's go do it. Let's do it. So first things first, we want to make sure the power's off on the radio, not just at the radio. We want it off at the power source. We don't want to let the magic smoke out. Now, you don't need a lot of tools to do a cap change, but there's some tools that really help, like, solder wick to pull solder off the board. And this is a really great instrument to have. This is a desoldering iron, or you could use a solder sucker. Today, I'm not going to show you how to use any of those tools. I'm going to try to do it simply with a soldering iron. Here are the tools that you'll need to do the job. We have a soldering iron. We have silver solder. Get some silver solder. I know that you might have been using lead solder for the last 50 years, and you're totally fine, and Johnny's a little girl for mentioning it. But if you can use silver solder over lead solder, yes, I know it can't readily be absorbed into the skin because it's so big, whatever. Use silver solder over lead. Of course, we have our flux we need. And as I said, if you do have a solder wick and you have a desoldering iron, then you probably already know how to do this anyway. But those are good tools to have. Let's get started. And you don't need a cigarette. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yeah, okay. I forgot to mention that you do need caps to replace caps with. Now, you can find these on AliExpress or eBay or wherever. I paid $7 for these, and they just come in a wide array of different values, most of which are very common for radio. In fact, the only one we can't replace today is this internal power supply cap, which we don't even need to replace because I have an external power supply hooked up to this thing because I didn't want to use the internal power supply. So I'm not even going to worry about replacing that today. That's not even going to help us. So let's go ahead and look at what you should and shouldn't do. So I've chosen this capacitor because I think it serves as a very interesting example of what not to do. So there's 2 values we're interested in. Now you have your capacitance, which says 220 microfarad. And this is your voltage rating, which says 16 volts. Which means when this thing gets higher than 16 volts, there's a higher and higher possibility of it exploding. And it leaves a terrible corroded mess all over your board, and it's not good. So the reason why I'm really hammering it home that you should worry about that voltage rating is because in a lot of these kits, you'll have the same exact capacitance value, but different voltage ratings. So I'll show you the difference between these. This cap right here is a 10 volt. This one is a 25 volt. They're the same capacitance, but this is a higher voltage rating. So what we want to do is we want to replace the 16 volt cap in here with at least 16 or in this case 25 volts, so the same or greater. The capacitance, however, is not that big of an issue. Yes, you can cause some problems, but you're not going to blow your cap up. If you put 180 microfarad in here or a 240 instead of a 220, it's not going to cause an issue. The voltage does not need to be lower, okay? That's all you need to worry about. Don't worry so much about the capacitance, worry more about the voltage. So let's put this one in. All right, so the astute of you might be wondering why I have put black marks on top of my caps, and that's to keep track of them. Because, yes, in this case, the caps that we're putting in are black and these are gray, so therefore I would know which ones I've replaced. However, sometimes you're taking out caps that look almost identical to the ones you're putting in, and so I recommend just putting a mark on the ones that you know were originally in there. That way you know you need to replace them. And that's it. By the way, before you start yanking these things out, you want to make sure, because not all these boards have this, you want to make sure that that lead right there that says negative, make sure you mark it, okay? So if it's on this side of the board, I think I've actually marked it there, you want to mark where the negative lead goes, because they do not work in reverse, okay? I'm going to demonstrate on this board. It's a bit corroded because I bought it in Radio Shack back when I was 12, so don't worry about the board corrosion. I'm just telling you, you want to put these things in with extended leads. You want these leads to be as long as they possibly can be. Then you'll fold them over. That way it stays on the board. You'll take your pliers, you'll clip these leads off, solder them, and then you're good to go. Remember to put your flux down, and if you possibly can, make sure you get flux that is non-corrosive. You don't want corrosive flux. I've done that before. It'll ruin your boards. So try to get some non-corrosive flux. If you can't, use some isopropyl alcohol and clean the board afterwards. Well, as you can see, I'm not a soldering wizard. I actually pulled up a trace on accident there. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because the board's old. I didn't actually hold it down forever, but be careful, because the longer you hold the soldering iron on there, the faster the trace will come up. That's the best I can do. Now we need to turn it back on. Why do we need to turn it back on? Because we want to make sure that we did everything right. So we're going to check and make sure everything's functioning as it was, maybe better. But if we end up doing all the caps in here and we turn the radio back on and nothing happens, which one did you mess up on? Okay, so every time you change the cap, turn the radio back on, hook it back up, and see if it works. All right, sounds like it works. Let's go ahead and get the microphone and we'll see if it transmits. So we got it back on, and the modulation actually was worse. And this is why you turn it back on every time, because Johnny made a critical frickin' mistake. I actually replaced the 100 microfarad cap with the 220. Here's the 220. There was the 100. So I got my caps mixed up, and that's why you turn it on every time. We're going to have to fix that, but hey, it's a work in progress. This is how you do it. This is the stuff you're going to expect to run into. So I hope you get something from the video. Now, I've only replaced 4 caps. 4 caps. Audio. Tango. Echo. Sierra. Tango. Audio. Audio. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. So, 4 caps, and we already have fixed our problem. Now, of course, you'd want to replace all of these, but I just want to show that it is a very easy process, even with my poor soldering skills, so you'll do better than me. So go out there, get yourself some caps, take some of these old radios that are still halfway working, fix them up and use them, because I love these old Cobra 85s. They're my favorite radio. For some reason, I just like them a lot. So, until next time, it's Johnny Jones. I'm here at home. And I'll see you later. Hope you enjoyed.